So like I mentioned earlier, my name is Liz, and I'm going to be walking you guys through QuickBooks Point of Sale PI. And so I have a little bit of an agenda here for us at the top. This is well, if this is the first time you're joining us on a webinar in a while, the setup might look a little different. We previously used to use GoToMeeting for our webinars, or GoToWebinar, excuse me, and now we are using Microsoft Teams. So standard basic controls are still the same. You should be able to raise your hand if you have a question. If you have a mic on your side, then I can actually unmute you and you guys can go ahead and join in on the webinar. If that's not your cup of tea, feel free to use the chat feature as well. That does give me a little pop-up that I can go ahead and see, and I can go ahead and answer your question. Whichever form you decide to interact with, if you have questions, if they are general questions that fit well within that area, of course, I will answer them right then and there. If it's a little bit more specific, I will still do my best to answer it, but I might suggest hanging tight till the end of the webinar. We will have plenty of time. We're scheduled out for a 2-hour webinar today. And trust me when I say, thankfully, QuickBooks Point of Sale makes our PIs pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Okay. So like I said, first things first, preparing for the PI. If you guys are using a scanner, an inventory scanner, like a CypherLab or MetroLogic scanner, of course, we want to make sure that we get a chance to test those in advance. If you are renting a scanner from Big Hairy Dog, then we always set you up with an appointment to not only set up the scanner, but to give you a little refresher on PI and just make sure that everything is ready so we can go as smoothly as possible day of. All right. In addition to testing your scanners, especially if they're away for the year, we want to make sure that we are, of course, backing up and we've run our on-hand report. Now, our on-hand report, we're going to run our inventory evaluation report, and I will remind you guys of where we can find that. All right, now as far as zones go, so zones are something that we typically always recommend for any client, any size. What a zone is just breaking out your store into more manageable sections. It's not actually something within the software or within the system. It's just saying this section of my store, I'm going to go ahead and put some tape down on the ground. This is my north section. I have south, east, west section. I'm just breaking it apart into 4 easy, more manageable chunks. And that's how I'm going to make sure that people don't scan over each other. They have literal lines on the floor. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open this guy up. All right. Now, oh, I apologize. Looks like I opened that on the wrong side. You guys can't see that. One moment. All right. Just drop this into my QuickBooks area. Apologize, I had that open on the wrong side. So I do have a physical inventory manual. It is very basic. There's not very many pictures in here, but it does a pretty good job of walking you through the various parts of the PI and to remind you of those little things that people tend to always forget. Things like, what reports can I run? Our PI differences, our PI detail, our PI store count worksheet. And it gives you a little blurb on exactly what each one of those are. All right. So if anyone's interested, I can also make sure that this gets sent out to all of our registers, all of our people who are registered. All right, but for the most part, we're going to be doing everything that we need here within the system ourselves. All right, so is it first things first? Whenever you are ready to start your PI, we're going to run a backup. So first thing, we're going to go to File and then Backup Data. We do want to do this on the server, all right, because our workstations, of course, will get disconnected when a backup is being run. All right, now you can back up to the default location if you are unsure of where the default location is. Always back up to an alternate location and then check your company preferences. All right, my company preferences are going to be under File, Preferences, Company. All right, and that's where we can see where that default backup is being sent to. So my data is set up to back up every day at 3 a.m. and this is where it's dropping. All right, let's go ahead and cancel out of that. Next, we're going to run a quick on-hand report. So I'm going to go into my report center. I can just jump directly to items, but of course I can always go to the report center directly. All reports, items, same thing. All right, and my inventory valuation, show the current value of your inventory for any particular day. Please keep that in mind. This is for any particular day. If you have forgotten to run your inventory valuation report and you've already updated your PI, we can still run for what your inventory was for yesterday. You just have to, when running this, set it to yesterday. All right, there we go. Now, if your QuickBooks behaves a little differently, if it would just auto run, be mindful that I have my prompt to modify report options before running reports turned on. I just think that is an extremely helpful little check mark there, especially for your larger reports. I have no idea when the last time I ran my inventory valuation report. So let's just make sure that everything is correct. Matter of fact, I'm filtering for specific items, and that might not be what I want for a full inventory valuation report. The thing that normally gets people is they'll turn on some kind of created date, and that really limits this report. All right, I want to see everything. Now I'm going to go ahead and just run this guy. We will see this again. I am going to go and run it after our PI is complete, but just as a quick heads up, this is what I have set up currently, and it is subtotaling by department. Again, we can tell that by the little green arrow, or green triangle, I should say. All right. Now, like I said, more on that report in just a bit, but now that I've backed up my inventory, I have my on-hand report prior to any changes happening. And of course, in a multi-store environment, we want to make sure that we've polled and we're not accepting any transfers. We're not doing anything that's going to be moving quantities at this time before we start inventory. Best practice is going to be for you guys to also be closed, your physical store be closed. If you cannot be closed, then we do recommend that you just be sure to count the items before they leave your store. And let's talk about why. I'm going to go ahead and hit inventory, and I'm just going to go scroll all the way down to start physical inventory. All right. So when we have a start physical inventory, I have my expected column. All right, this is what the system, according to everything that it has within itself, what the system thinks I should have. And then of course, counted is what I'm telling the system that I have. Now, this is already checked off from the last time that I was in here. Set all items not counted to 0. We have to be very careful with this little check mark here. It really depends on the type of physical that we are running. If we are running a complete physical, then yes, of course, I will get that checked off. This is going to correct any negative quantities that I might have. If I didn't count it, set it to 0. So -5 gets corrected back up to 0. All right. Now, in the event that I'm not or not counting all inventory items, if I wanted to go ahead and use a specific filter, I actually have access to all of my inventory filters here. I could go ahead and count for only a specific department, a group of items, a style even. Now the PI tool is a little heavy for a style, but I have seen some pretty big styles. All right, now that's when we would not want to set all items not counted to 0. I don't need to zero out the rest of my inventory, just make the corrections to the items that I have counted today. All right. Now we're going to leave that out, all items. I will be back to go ahead and set that to 0, but let's go ahead and just scroll all the way up. And let's talk about our little worksheet here. So of course, I can go ahead and customize columns by right-clicking anywhere in the column header. All right, and I can go and add and remove. I can just move them up and down. For now, I'm going to say this is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add some additional information that might help me figure out this item a little bit easier. And actually, maybe not that one, but maybe height and length would be helpful. So let's go ahead and hit save, and there we go. All right. Now, under the I want to, this is another way that we can mess with some stuff. So under the I want to, I can of course add counts by hand. Hitting the add counts by hand window is just going to allow me to type or scan in my item numbers. So if I do 22959, and by default, that radio button after enter key, it will go to my quantity field. So I can type in my quantity, hit enter again, and it will add it to my list. If I've made a mistake and I can see the mistake, I can actually just change it here under the counted area. So I can type in a 6 over that 5, a 2 here instead, or a 10, whatever I wanted it to be the first time. All right. So either way is totally fine. You can go ahead and change it on the quantity line or on the line itself, and we can bypass it and just go to add items. 22706. There it is, and still the same. We are able to go ahead and change that. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit save, not cancel. If I go ahead and hit cancel, I am getting rid of those counts. I'm not adding them to the screen. So one more time, I want to, oh, and I wish I would have saved those numbers. All right, and then I think I did 229. I don't think that was the right one, but that's the one we're doing now. And let's do 11, 5, and 7. All right, so there we go. I added those to the screen. Now, I could also go ahead and remove the item if it wasn't quite right. I know remove item looks like it's grayed out. It's not. We can go ahead and highlight that. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. All right, and there we go. So now that we saved it, it gets added to my counted field. And if you're asking yourself, can I just type into counted? Absolutely, you can. All right, we totally can. Now, this has all been very manual. I am just manually adding those scan quantities in, or manually saying I want to add counts by hand. The add counts from a scanner or clear counts from the scanner, of course, come if we're using our scanners. So I'm going to go ahead and click onto this. So when we set up your scanners, we set them up in our hardware setup wizard, essentially just making sure that the scanner or that the computer can see the scanner, QuickBooks can see the scanner, and we know which port we're communicating through. That's pretty much it. From there, the scanner itself will kind of lead you through what to do, and where the scanner does not help you, the QuickBooks software itself will tell you what to do. So, of course, we got to make sure the scanner is installed. The scanner has to be attached to the cradle when this is happening, all right? And then, of course, we have to have scan data within that scanner. All right, we're going to go ahead and just go next. All right. Now, from the main menu, you would hit that to upload, and it looks like this screen here. Now, this is for the Cipher Lab. The MetroLogic scanner that's a little bit older still has the same looking menu, but the MetroLogic scanner, it's more automatic, actually. Okay. But again, we're just going to hit that connecting to menu, and once it's in the cradle, it will essentially upload those scans. If I go ahead and hit next right now, we're going to get that error. This is when it's waiting to find those scans. All right, now I apologize. I know I can't actually show you guys the scanner only because I do not have one of these physical inventory scanners with me at the moment. But when we do get that scan entered in, let me go ahead and bring this up. It looks like this. We have all of our items listed and their scanned quantities. And just like when adding them in manually, if you realize that you made a mistake, we can actually change them here before officially uploading them. One of the biggest issues people have to deal with is what happens when I scan something that doesn't exist in my database. All right, so that's something that can happen for a variety of reasons. For example, if the barcode that you scanned was in fact not your barcode, but the vendor barcode, and that just didn't get into the system just yet, that will be a mismatch. The item does exist, but not under that value. It only exists under our item number. All right, that's when we're going to go ahead and pull that item off to the side, and we will add it in using the appropriate value. But what is the system going to say? The system is going to have another tab right here at the top that says errors. And it will actually show you, just like this, the good item right before our bad scan. it will show our bad scan. And then the next good item after our bad scan. All right, now this, along with breaking your inventory into smaller sections, is what it's going to help you find that inventory error, right? If I'm looking for this one item in the middle of my entire store, it's going to be pretty hard. But if I'm looking for this one item and it's just in these two aisles, the chances of me finding it are a lot higher. All right. Now, as far as the actual bad scan, the bad item itself, QuickBooks just drops it. It can do nothing with that UPC that is not officially tied to anything. All right. And like I said, we correct it by adding it in under the appropriate value after the fact, whether that be manually or by rescanning that product. All right. That was the same item actually. So let's go. There it is. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit save and get a few more items onto the screen for me here. Now, as far as the clear counts from scanner, the system walks you through how to do it, but this is all on the scanner itself. It actually shows you to go down to utilities, hit next, go down, press delete data, then all data. You can also use this to do the last one. So if you accidentally scan something that you know for a fact is wrong, just follow these exact same steps. So, excuse me, utilities, delete data, number 3, and then instead of all data, we would do last one. All right. And so you see through the QuickBooks point of sale side, it really does nothing. We went through that entire process, didn't even get an error that you don't have scanners. The deleting of the scans is done on the scanner only. So be mindful that if we don't do it, you run the risk of re-entering those exact same scans that we just entered. Okay. Now, QuickBooks is aware that this is an issue. Because of this, because of this and a few other things, they actually have the ability to save and then revert to last save. So let me go ahead and move this out of the way. I have a little icon in front of it. But there you go. We can hit that save and continue. I would recommend saving and continuing in between those separate zones. So if you're using a scanner, we would use the scanner to scan zone A. We would upload zone A. If we have no errors, then we hit save and continue. If we have an error, then or two, few of them, correct those errors, and once correct, save and continue. All right. And remember what correction is essentially getting rid of those bad guys or those values that don't exist and then replacing them with the correct value. All right. Once done, save and continue. And that'll help. So the next time that we make some changes, so again, if I made quite a few changes and let's say that all of these were mistakes, I'd be able to hit that I want to and revert to last save. And there it is, just undoes whatever you just did. Now, of course, that is relying on the fact that we hit that save and continue. I've had the unfortunate situation in helping someone where they did not save and continue. The last time they had saved was the beginning of their PI, and they reverted to the last save. They reverted back to their first step in the PI. So just be very mindful of where your last save was if you're hitting that revert to last save button. All right. Now, our last little button here, or not last, we jumped over a little bit. We jumped over our show last physical. But one of the last buttons here is our clear count and restart. And that is pretty self-explanatory. As soon as you hit that, you are clearing everything and restarting our PI. All right. Under Run Reports, we have access to our Report Center PI reports. So our worksheet, detailed report, differences report, and then we have the detail and differences report for the previous PI. All right. Now, those previous are just easy ways to remember that you can actually start a PI and go to previous if you forget to print out your PI reports. All right. Go ahead and come on down here. Now, for our PI worksheet, The PI worksheet, a lot of people actually use this if they're running a little bit more of a manual PI. I'm not renting scanners. I need to have a way that I can better organize my inventory so I can print it all out and do some manual counts. All right, so the worksheet's a great place to start. Again, I'm set up to uh, filter at the start. So I'm going to be able to add or remove columns in the beginning. Now this is sorted by department. For the way my fake store is set up, that makes the most sense. That's the closest to my actual store setup as I can get it from within this screen. If you guys are vendor based and I have all my vendors kind of grouped together, I might say sort by vendor. If you guys are using custom fields for like bin numbers or aisles, you can of course sort by those bin numbers, and that would be much closer um, to being able to probably what you have your zones actually set up as. Okay, now for right now I'm going to go ahead and leave this as is. I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and I'm just going to make sure I don't have any filters. Oh, and I did see, this would have been a problem. I'm filtering to a specific vendor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear that out, and I'm going to hit clear all and okay. All right, awesome. Now I can go ahead and run. And I got a lot of items. All right, cool. So there we go. I have a few items that don't have any department whatsoever, but then starting at my department 01.1, I got suits. Um, and there we go. All my counts there are what is expected, and then a space for my physical counts. So I can export this guy to Excel, or I can print to PDF, whatever is going to be easier. Now, of course, when we're exporting things like our entire inventory, it is going to take a second. And like I said, I got a little too much to work with in this training data. So we'll go ahead and drop that and let it go for right now. Now, again, the beauty of having these manual count sheets is even though I do have to manually type them in when they come back, my item number being right there makes that a lot easier. Now, we have some people get pretty creative with this as well, and they'll go through and, well, actually, let's go ahead and back up and I'll show you. So let's go ahead and close this. And I say I want to add counts by hand. Now, like I said, this is an add counts by hand, but at the end of the day, this enter items is just a search box. If I were to scan a barcode into that enter items, I can hit enter and it would add the item. I've had people get real creative and they load QuickBooks onto a laptop, and I literally just cart around the laptop and scan everything with a wired inventory scanner. Absolutely doable, but not as fast as using a wireless scanner, of course. All right, but it is a little bit faster than this manual, running it manually, because of what we just mentioned, right? If I run it manually, it's happening in two parts. My people are counting everything, and then I'm adding them and adjusting them. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and close that out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get some other counts in here. Oh, there it is. Let's go ahead and say 50. Okay, there we go. So I just wanted to go ahead and make some more discrepancies that looked a little bit different. So now we have both difference in negative quantities and additional quantity. So more than expected and less than expected, and we can see how this all starts to build out. Just to go ahead and bring this down. All right, so we can go ahead and have it show this on only items that have changed. If you're not seeing this anymore, you've already made this decision and it's no longer going to prompt you for this anymore. Now, there is a place where we can bring back all one-time prompts, but it is an all or nothing switch. Just be mindful of that. Yes, it's been a year since we've seen this last physical, but that's also going to bring back those original prompts of, hey, is it okay that this style is different? Do you want to break the styles? Is the on-hand quantity okay to sell into the negative? All of that comes back. All right, here it is. Under the I want to again, excuse me. I do not want to revert that. We're going to go ahead and save and continue. Getting a little ahead of myself there. There it is. So I can always go ahead and show only items that have changed, and this is my discrepancy list. So I can do that down over here. I can also go ahead and do that under the view items. So I can go ahead and click on my differences only, and this is my, again, discrepancies. Discrepancies we really don't care about until the very end. This should be final. So this is, I've counted everything in my store, so I know that it's not just my customers helping me redecorate. These items are in fact missing, or I do in fact have more than what I said I should. All right. And so again, after all zones have been complete, that's when I care about my differences. All right, let me go ahead and make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. Again, there's not too much to this. Prism does a really good job of keeping things kind of basic, but we talked about what those basic zones would look like, just smaller chunks of your store and therefore smaller chunks of inventory to have to correct where something were to, or if something were to go wrong. Troubleshooting bad scans, that's again, the system's going to show you the good item before, the good item after. So we have hopefully within that zone a smaller hunting ground for that bad item. All right. Now, as far as updating this merge, you can ignore that. The merging of the zones is for actually Retail Pro. Like I said, whether you're on QuickBooks or Retail Pro, we do recommend the zones. It is not technically required within QuickBooks, but it is an amazing organizational point. All right. Now, reviewing discrepancies is where we're at now. We're double checking that everything is looking good. Under the I want to, I can run the report, and I can go ahead and run that differences report. Again, choosing to filter at the start, so I can add or remove columns. And right now this is sort based on my style number. I'm going to go ahead and change that and have it based on department for the time being. All right, with a subtotal. So I can go ahead and save that and run. And there we go. Well, I expected not to go ahead and have too many discrepancies because I really didn't count much. But this is what it is. So here it is in my 404 dress shirt department. I have only one item. In my sports shirt department, I have two items that are currently being read as a discrepancy. Originally expected 0, but I counted, 2 and 1. I can go ahead and close this, or of course I can print it. For now, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Now, technically, I can close all of this. I can get out of my PI entirely, especially for those much more expensive items. I don't really care if I'm missing 5 or 6 chapsticks. That's just the nature of the beast in retail. But if I'm missing 2 or 3 $500 items, yeah, we might want to look into that a little bit. So I could jump into my item list. I can go ahead and jump into a particular item, and I can go ahead and, well, actually, let's go ahead and show my details here. And I can take a look at the history for that particular item. Just kind of see everything that's been going on with it, right? Especially those items that I seem to be missing a lot. If I'm not seeing a more recent receiver for it or a voucher for it, then chances are somebody completely forgot to update it, or it just never made it onto a voucher in the beginning. So it's a pretty easy place to find, or an easy way to find that discrepancy, right? Another thing that people tend to bite people are the adjustments, especially if you sign in as sysadmin or you have users that are allowed to sign in as the system administrator. That user is a very powerful account. And of course, other users can become nearly as powerful. But the reason I bring it up is there's nothing stopping an admin user from just directly editing on hand and changing it. I don't even get the prompts, the pop-ups anymore because I've cleared them. All right. So that's a quick accidental thing that can happen, but the system will still go ahead and create an adjustment memo for you. So it's hopefully a little bit easier to figure out what's been going on with that product. All right. And when I'm ready, I can go ahead and go back to my physical inventory. And I know it does say start physical inventory, but it does hold your work so you can hop in and out. So you will see, of course, whatever you've already set up. All right. Now, if this was the end, I am done with my physical inventory. I've counted everything that I have in store and everything that I don't say that I've counted. Unfortunately, that is just time to be zeroed out and corrected. So for a complete physical, we would always set all items not counted to 0. And now I can apply inventory changes. All right. Now an adjustment memo will be created. Remember, at the end of the day, the actual document that affects your inventory, that affects your inventory quantities outside of a sale or voucher is an adjustment. Okay, so more on that in just a bit, but I'm going to kind of tell you how we can also run cycle counts outside of a physical inventory. All right, but for now, we're going to go ahead and say yes. All right, updating quantities. Oh, and if interested, we do also have other previously recorded webinars for PI. I believe I might have done the last one and Daryl might have done the one before, but different trainers, so different things that we like to highlight. Please take a look at other ones as well, especially if you guys are struggling or you guys are hitting any kind of errors or anything like that. If you guys are open during if you guys are open during our business hours, well, I guess our after hours line is technically 24/7. You guys can call us at any time. But during business hours, just as a reminder, we do take all physical inventory calls as down calls as well. We want to make sure to get you guys up and running. All right, but there we go. We set it all up and one quantity adjustment memo was generated. We're going to go ahead and just hit OK. Now, at the end, once you've finally updated your PI, it actually gives you the options to run your PI reports. Excuse me, not enough coffee apparently. All right, so I technically did already run my PI differences report and I printed that out. So I'm gonna actually run my detailed report this time around. So it'll show all item counts, not just my differences. All right, and I'm going to run report. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and just preview this. All right. Now, this is the one thing that I kind of don't like when you are running it through the update. It doesn't, even though I'm set up to allow me to filter at the start, it doesn't actually do that through the update, okay? But don't forget that we can always go back and rerun these reports. The only reason I mention it is just because, kind of looking at it, I can see that my difference in cost and price are way too out there, and now it's jumping onto another page, unfortunately, when I definitely could get it all in one. All right. Of course, if I would export to Excel instead of sending it to PDF, that would have worked as well, and I could have formatted it in Excel before printing it. All right. So let's go ahead and close out of here. And there you go. So once done, it just drops you back to wherever you were. This time we had hopped out. We were in our inventory item list. If I go ahead and start another physical inventory, again, now it's starting all from 0. And I can say I want to, and I can show last physical. Showing my last physical will pull everything that I had. And of course, it is grayed out because it's already been updated. We can see when it was applied down here at the bottom left-hand side. All right, I can go ahead and run a report here. And again, I can run my detailed and differences for that previous PI. Oh, did I not run that? Might be a little stuck, it's a little too big. All right, I apologize. Again, I know that I have very strange data in my training box here, so I apologize. That's probably the data is just being a little too slow in loading and it's getting stuck there. Just again, wanted that refresher to show you that you can run all your reports from here and you can jump back in whenever you need it, okay? Let's go ahead and hit that big red X at the top and we'll get out of there. All right, now earlier I had mentioned, we pop into inventory, that these adjustment memos, or the PI tool was just a way of getting these adjustment memos done, basically. All right, so if I go into my quantity adjustment history, I can go ahead and see, let me see, what's my custom filter? We'll do today. There it is. All right, so there it is. Here is my physical inventory that I just completed. And in fact, this was the extra one that we did in inventory where I just said, oh, they have 2 on hand. All right. But if I go ahead and edit the memo, or even just look at the memo, I can pull it up and I can see all of the items that have a difference quantity. This is going to match up to my differences report that I built. And this is how the system actually moves that quantity for you. All right. So with that in mind, I just want to remind you guys that you guys can go ahead and create quantity adjustment memos yourself. And for the reason code, we can go ahead and enter in a new reason. We can set that up in our system preferences, or excuse me, our company preferences. And usually I'll just call that physical inventory or cycle count. That's really what I'm referring to with this. A cycle count is a type of physical inventory where you don't count your entire store. You are only counting a specific vendor or department, or style or some kind of specific group, right? Like we mentioned earlier, you can also do that with the PI tool. I just personally prefer them from adjustment memos if it's going to be manual, because I can go ahead and rest assured that I'm only affecting the items that I am entering and I don't accidentally hit that zero out all items not counted. All right. But let's go ahead and say I'm just going to hit that quantity adjustment. And like I said, I can scan in the products. Now, if you're using an adjust memo, this would work hand in hand with our more manual approach where I would print out some kind of count sheet, just like the worksheet, and then they can go count everything. And I'm then only concerned with the differences when they're done. So they bring them back over to me. Let's go ahead and pop that in. Oh, cancel. I think it was that one. All right. So they brought it back over to me. So now I know that this is one of the items that I have to go ahead and add a quantity to. They ended up finding a few in the back. So I'm going to make sure that that new quantity is just correct to whatever I need it to be once I update. All right. Now, and then we just keep on going. All right. They found 3. And there we go. So we're adding a few items to inventory. This is also the perfect way to handle some minor corrections. If you've already updated your PI and then you realize, oh shoot, we forgot to count the storage office. No worries. There's no need to completely undo the PI. You can just create an adjustment memo and adjust those items back into inventory after the fact. That's when, again, I'd probably want to go ahead and use that reason code physical inventory so that it makes a little bit more sense for the accounting team in the background. But other than that, put exactly what we just said in that comments and flag your manager, flag your accountant, flag the powers that be. Just make sure that they know why you did it this way. And again, just to avoid having to completely undo that giant PI for that handful of items or that box full of items. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and save only for right now, and it's going to adjust those quantities. We can go ahead and close this brand new one that it built. And again, it's going to be under inventory and, excuse me, not new, but quantity adjustment history. There it is. All right. So with that, that is it for our webinar on our QuickBooks PI. Again, we were doing this for specifically QuickBooks version 19. Version 18 luckily looks very, very similar, and lower versions should behave similar, though the buttons might be in a slightly different location. Those older QuickBooks version 18 and below, they have gone end of life, so you guys might have already noticed, probably already noticed the need to make some adjustments. And so just as a heads up, version 19 is here. We're ready to go ahead and help you out with them if you need anything. And if there's anything special about 18 that kept you on for so long, we're sure that we probably have a way of helping you out, 19 and moving forward. Of course, if you want to hang tight for that version 20, I don't think they have a release date out just yet, but that will be the newest and latest and greatest. We'll let you guys know when that comes to turn. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to raise your hand, or type in the chat. I'll be hanging around for a few more minutes here. But if there are no questions, then you are free to go. And I just want to thank you for joining me on this webinar. Oh, and before I forget to mention, for those of us that are integrated with QuickBooks Financials, QuickBooks Financials does see these changes via those adjustment memos. Adjustment memos are sent over to QuickBooks as well. And if you have any questions in regards to how they're sent over for adjustments or really for anything, please remember that you can always double check your mapping in our company preferences and then in financials. All right. So this is probably going to yell at me a little bit because I recently had a change here, but we have our accounts a little bit lower. All right, and it looks like we do have a question. It looks like it's in regards to QuickBooks point of sale not communicating with our financials and giving us an item voucher to turn into a bill. Got it. All right. For that, I might say let's get you on the board if that's okay. You can feel free to type into the chat. I can get you guys on the board for a technician to dial in. Normally, in a perfect world, and it's what I gotta say, normally, right? Um, all that's needed for financials to exchange properly is that QuickBooks is open, or QuickBooks Point of Sale and QuickBooks Financial are open on the same machine. If they're open on the same machine, they can do that handshake and communicate back and forth. Normally, vouchers, as long as they have the vendor billing information. So a receiving voucher needs to have a billing info in order to go ahead and move over. All right, and in our receiving history, let's go ahead and search for year to date. All right. So in our receiving history, this is essentially what it needs to look like. Invoice numbers and all of that good stuff. If it's been marked as already paid, it will not flow into financials. If you see needs billing info, also will not flow into financials. Only when it's being given that invoice number does it flow into financials and should already come over as a bill. So yeah, if you're needing to go ahead and convert it into a bill once it's there, sounds like we have a misstep somewhere in that communication and the connection that needs to be corrected. All right, absolutely. And I don't know if what I said, if you guys do anything a little differently, but like I said, if you would like to go ahead and get on the board for tech, let me actually put it up on the screen here. 3681070. All right, so that is our main tech support number. You can call this line and you will get one of our lovely receptionists. If you are looking for more of an appointment, you can still call that number and let them know the issue, but that you want it to be scheduled. Then they'll get you over to my lovely service department and they will schedule out some time. Other than that, if it's something that's not really urgent, but you still kind of want to get us in there, you can also email us at tech@bighairydog.com. All right. And a lot of the times these issues are run on like back office computers. You can always send us your team viewer information there and just let us know to hop on sometime during the day, and we'll jump in and give you a call if we need to go ahead and discuss further with you. But like I said, if it just ends up being mapping, usually a tech would be able to correct that without bothering you too much. Got it. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are already on the ball, already got on the tech board. So I'll see where you guys are in the queue, and if anybody, if the technician haven't picked you up yet, I'll add a few notes of my own because we got a chance to talk about it just a little tiny bit. Um, but yeah, I have a feeling that something's going on with your mapping. But we'll get to the bottom of that and hopefully get you guys running smoothly soon here. Yeah, absolutely. And to everybody viewing this later, I apologize. You guys probably won't be able to see the chat. So we are officially done with that webinar. Thanks again, everybody, to join us or that have joined us. And thank you to everybody who's reviewing this in the future. I've been Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and that number is good to give us a call at any time if you're experiencing any technical issues whatsoever. Thank you so much and have a great one.